Hey guys, it's Liv here, and in today's video, we're going to be going over all of the new Pokemon in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet to see how good each one is going to be in their respective formats. So if you guys enjoy this type of content and you want to see more like it, leave a like on the video and subscribe for more. Just to make sure that everyone's on the same page here, we're not going to be showing any images for new Pokemon. This is to avoid spoilers, but as well as making sure that the video can stay up, so no new images will be shown off here. Comment your thoughts down below on what Pokemon you think will be the best in this game. And with that said, let's get started. So for anyone who is unaware, we did cover the starters actually yesterday. One thing I will say though, is that looking at the starters, I actually think we got some decent mid stages. I think that despite the Protean nerf, Floragato might have a niche in at least a low Smogon tier. It will clearly not be used in VGC because you could obviously just use Masquerada, which already I think will be a bit outclassed in doubles, but still not a bad option by any means. Just between a lot of the returning decks, I do see this potentially running into issues. However, I could totally see a Scarf or Band set from Masquerada working in VGC. Smogon, I think that will also be the same case because of the Protean nerf and how it only works on the first attack. Probably going to be a primarily choice user, which with its coverage with stuff like Sucker Punch and Knockoff should honestly, well, that's stabs, but you also get your stab of its signature move, which is basically Wicked Blow but for grass types, and you get coverage like Play Rough and Thunder Punch, so I think this will be a solid OU mod at the very least, maybe Ubers potentially, but probably OU. Just because the fact that Protean can't change types as rapidly anymore, but for choice sets that really doesn't matter. Skeledirge, I will say I think I kind of underestimated this mon a little bit in yesterday's video. I didn't really mention, I don't think, how I think this could actually become a really good mon in OU, considering we don't have Clefable right now, and on top of this as well, the Quagsire lost both of its statuses, being Scald and Toxic, so I could actually see this having a really good niche in OU, but I don't know if it's guaranteed. Being a ground weak Pokemon with Unaware isn't really great when a lot of the top setup mons such as Garchomp and Lando will be set up. Still maybe not bad, does get Will-O-Wisp. I think this is the only one as well where the NFE will probably not be useful in low tiers, though at the same time you could probably get away with having a really good removal option. Despite a lot of good removal being cut, there might be something good in the low tiers where you could run a good spinner with this Pokemon and maybe make it work. I think that if nothing else, Skeledirge will be like a UU-OU mon for sure. Again, I think I really underestimated it in yesterday's video, for singles at least, but I think it will be terrible in doubles. Finally, Quaquaval, I do think this mon personally will be the best one in singles and doubles. Well, actually, maybe not the best one in singles, but definitely the best one in doubles. I will say someone did point out at the very least that it will be outclassed by Urshifu in VGC. I do agree with that. Urshifu will not be around at least for a few months though, and truthfully by the time that the home mons come, I don't think that any of these will be viable in VGC, so I still stand by the claim that this will be, of the three starters, the best one in VGC. As far as singles goes, I think this one might still have some niche. I don't see Urshifu actually lasting in a Smogon tier with the Swords Dance, so I could see this mon instead lasting, and with 85 speed plus Moxie and a guaranteed speed boosting move, this will be a pretty decent Pokemon in OU, and I think it will be one of, if not the best, at the start. Now let's move on to the new Pokemon though. First up, we do have Lechonk, or its evolution, Oinkologne. So it looks like these stats actually do change based on male and female. We do have, of course, 110 HP for male with 100 attack, 75 Biz Def, 859 special attack, 80 Def, and 65 speed. They both seem to share 59 special attack, 65 speed, with otherwise the stats kind of shifting based on the form. It looks like currently that Lingering Aroma is the signature ability, but it's only for the male, which basically means it's basically Mummy. That's really what the ability is. And it seems like it's only for males. The female seems to get Aroma Veil, which honestly, it's probably better. And I also like the female's stat, well, yeah, the female stat line's a little bit better, at least for defensive taking. They both seem to be pure normal type Pokemon, which isn't the best. I would have loved for this thing to be normal fairy, I'll be honest. If we do look at the TM options though that these get, it seems like they might, well at the very least a level up seems like it might differ, but I'm not entirely sure. At the very least it does list it as separate options here. But they do get options such as Disarming Voice, Echoed Voice. I mean, their special attack is pretty garbage, so I don't know why I'm going over physical moves. You do still get stuff like Headbutt, Double Edge, and that's pretty much it for the level up side. For egg moves, nothing here really seems to matter, though I will say maybe Stockpile, I guess, could be kind of useful, maybe in low tier, depending on what goes. As far as physical goes, though, your TMs do get really good going into the evolutions. you get options such as Thief, which would be kind of useful, but going down the list though, we do go into stuff like Bullet Seed and Seed Bomb. You get stuff like Zen Headbutt, which Zen Headbutt will be great for fighting type matchups as well as player off in that regard. Stopping Tantrum seems to be here. Body Press, which could be decent, especially considering the fact that I believe this, no, I don't think it actually gets a way to set up Fizz. Well, you know what, Stockpile, I guess. That could be the way to set up Fizz Def. But even still, this also seems to get Trailblaze to maybe boost his speed, which whatever, it's 65 speed and it's a kind of weak offensive mon. Helping Hand could be kind of okay support, especially on the Aroma Veil one at the very least. As far as female goes, the TMs don't really get a ton better, at least not better enough to justify this in my opinion. These will both truthfully in singles probably be PU Pokemon, and as far as doubles go, I don't really see either getting use, but if one had to get use, I would say it's probably going to be the female one, solely because of Aroma Veil. So yeah, these are probably going to be pretty garbage. Dunsparce and its Evo to Dunsparce. So Dunsparce at the very least got an evolution. This means for low tiers you have to look out for a Violet Dunsparce, which could actually be pretty decent. This mon gets it. Well, actually, I don't know if it still gets its own recovery, but it used to get recovery. It does look like at the very least it gets rest. As far as Dunsparce goes, though, do we actually keep the Roost? Because if this doesn't keep Roost, that's pretty bad actually. But let me pull up real quick actually, because its moveset's out of order because of the fact that it's an evolution. Let's see. So Dunsparce seems to not get. Oh no, he gets Roost. Okay, so yeah, level 36. So that's actually gonna be pretty decent on it, if nothing else. I think that this could definitely end up surviving in the lower tier range, if nothing else. Dunsparce gets some pretty decent options for coverage, if not in its moveset. For example, you get moves such as, well, I'm pulling up the very specifics, but you get moves such as Body Slam, which already will be amazing with Serene Grace. Stuff like Rock Slide, Earthquake. You get, for the special side, if you were to really go that route, which I wouldn't recommend on a mon like this, but you get stuff like Earth Power, Hyper Voice, Air Slash. So you want to get a ton of options. Dunsparce doesn't really lose a lot as far as moveset goes. It even still keeps Stealth Rocks at the very least. So this will probably be a decent like NU a Violet Pokemon. It's definitely going to be more viable than the Oinkologne if nothing else. As far as its evolution goes, truthfully, I also think this will probably be around like the NU RU tier. I don't really see the evolution getting much better, not gonna lie. I will say there's one thing that the evolution got, which is its signature move, which I do need to pull up the specific name of the signature move. I just remember seeing it on Twitter at some point. But if nothing else, I do think if this Pokemon was ever to be viable, it would be because of, yeah, I think it's Hyper Drill is what the signature move is, which basically, for anyone who is unaware, no, it doesn't look like Hyper Drill is here. Well, either that or my Control F isn't working, but Hyper Drill, yeah, it doesn't seem to be on here. Well, it says it gets it at 32. What? Oh, you know what? No, this is abilities. Hyper Chill. There we go. So basically, this is a move that breaks protection, and it seems like the damage. Well, no, never mind. They moved the damage tab over a lot. Yeah, it's a 100 base damage physical move, and it seems to break protection. So also seems to be contact, and it's a pure normal type move. So honestly, that'll be pretty decent. I think if nothing else, could maybe give it an edge in certain cases in VGC, but I don't think it's gonna be viable there, despite being a really cool move for the tier. Because this basically functions like Urshifu's ability Unseen Fist did. So I think it could maybe have some use on Trick Room. But truthfully, I think when you're looking at Trick Room normals, we already do have stuff like Ursaluna that's going to be in the game. Maybe pre-home this will have a case, but I don't really see it either. This will be kind of just a mon that's lost to the lower tiers. I think both Dunsparce and Dunsparce will be like NUPU mons. But if nothing else, I do think they're at least better than Lechonk and Oinkologne. Moving on to our regional bugs, we do have Tarantula, and Spidops. So honestly, really garbage. I'm not even going to spend a lot of time with this Pokemon. 79 attack, 52 special attack. This is basically going to function as the Argados of this generation, in my opinion. If we look in the moveset, this gets Sticky Web, I guess, which is pretty decent as far as noteworthy moves go. Sucker Punch and First Impression through Egg moves, which is, again, not bad, but when we're looking at the base stats, this is honestly a pretty terrible mon. I can't really see a world where this gets out of the PU tier. In fact, I think it's actually going to be in the ZU tier, to be honest. I think Oinkologne might at least stay in PU, same as the Dunsparce. I think this mon has no chance at it, though. This will, at best, maybe be used on a rare occasion with the Toxic Spikes plus Sticky Web set, and maybe try and cheese teams that way, but again, I think there's just better options. Moving on to our actually not terrible bug this gen, though, we do have Lotix and Nimble. So Lotix and Nimble honestly are pretty decent bug dark type. This thing gets no good egg moves, but it's honestly fine. If we look into the level up moves, though, you get stuff like Lunge, for example, and Sucker Punch and First Impression, all of which are pretty decent. You get Axe Kick as well in your moveset, and when we look at the Pokemon itself, Lotix has some decent stats going for it. For one, this has the 92 speed and 102 attack. You get Tin and Lens on your moveset as well. As far as if this thing gets U-turn, it does seem like it gets U-turn. So honestly, this will be a pretty decent Scarf for low tiers. I could totally see this thing just running stabs, truthfully, with a U-turn, First Impression, Leech Life, and then Sucker Punch set, or even potentially taking off one of the bug moves for something else coverage-wise. But I think this will be a decent NU sort of on, probably going to take the place of the Yanmega sort of variant for low tiers, though I think Yanmega is actually in the game, so I don't know about outright taking the place. The point being, though, is I definitely think this will be like a low tier pivot. Bug Dark also is just a pretty good offensive typing. Well, the very least it's not a bad offensive typing. You get Stab U-turn, and also the +2 priority is pretty decent, especially with Tinted Lens, and you also get another priority option with Sucker Punch. This could totally just run a Band or Scarf option, and I think it could really thrive in a low tier setting. But if nothing else, this is probably of our first early on bug types, the best one in my personal opinion. At the very least, the best one we've went over so far. And it does not get much better than this when we get into Babska, I think is what it is. I can't even, Rabska, okay, I was reading it through my OBS and that was really blurry. But this one's not terrible. Synchronize and Telepathy are pretty decent abilities, especially Telepathy for doubles. 75 HP, 50 attack, 85 defense, 115 special attack, 100 Spadef, and 45 speed. Honestly, this mon doesn't seem too great on first impression, I'm not gonna lie. But when we look into moveset, this gets some good utility options, stuff like Trick, Skill Swap, Trick Room. Trick Room could be decent on this, actually. It could be a decent breaker, and it has some good coverage, too, with stuff like Dazzling Gleam. You also get Psychic Terrain, actually, so this could maybe be a manual setter, but probably not. You also get stuff like Power Gem, though, for coverage, Calm Mind for setup, which is going to be useful. Does this thing get Bug Buzz? I don't know if I even saw Bug Buzz in its learned set. Maybe it's just because it's not a TM, maybe? But I'm not seeing Bug Buzz here. It gets Struggle Bug at the very least, but does it get Bug Buzz? It's the important one. It gets Recover actually through Egg moves, which will be pretty decent. Same as Memento. That could also be some decent options in Cosmic Power for setup. This could totally actually be a decent mon as long as, you know, it gets Bug Buzz. Yeah, there we go. Level 45, it gets Bug Buzz. Okay, and it also gets Psychic, so that's honestly going to be pretty decent. I could totally see this maybe being an NUPU mon. I will say Bug Psychic, though, isn't really the best typing. But weirdly enough, I think this thing has the stat line to where this could maybe be useful in doubles. The 115 special attack is the big selling point here, in my opinion. But I think this could maybe be useful in a very early, like, pre-home doubles before we get all the Hisui mons and all that. But if nothing else, I think this could be okay, I guess. It's going to be similar to how we had a bunch of really garbage Pokemon like Vileplume, for example, being really viable in doubles because of how little was in the game before, so like Venusaur came around. And I think it's going to be how Rabska kind of functions. I will say that the Telepathy is pretty promising as far as a Trick Room team goes, especially when a lot of the Pokemon could, for example, be like Ursaluna and you might be going for Earthquake. Although I will say Headlong Rush will probably be the better move there. But the point being, though, is for any sort of double spread Pokemon, this could maybe be useful with Telepathy, and that's about the extent of its niche I can think of. As far as singles goes, though, I'm thinking NUPU. Calm Mind and Recover is really promising, but the typing offensively isn't the best. Moving on to Greavard and Houndstone. This looks like it gets Sand Rush, which will honestly be really cool. I think this will be a decent Sand Rush option with 68 speed, 101 attack. Fluffy also is a pretty decent hidden ability, if nothing else. Moving on to its moveset, this does seem to get options like Play Rough, Crunch, which already those are pretty decent. Onto its move Last Respects, which at the very least, this seems like the user and attacks to avenge its allies. The more defeated allies there are in the user's party, the greater move's power. That's honestly pretty decent. It's a ghost physical move. It starts at base 50 and it gets plus 50 for each ally fainted. Oh my god, that's awesome. So this could in theory peak at 300 base power as a ghost move because it doesn't look like it has a cap listed here. That's honestly really amazing. You could definitely function this into a pretty decent option with Sand Rush, and you could potentially break a lot of teams, and often the physical ghost as well is really strong. This is typically something that we don't see a lot, so it's going to be pretty unique as far as coverage goes, and depending on if this thing gets a really strong fighting option, this could be really strong. Moving on to egg moves though, you do seem to get stuff like Shadow Sneak, Destiny Bond, Memento, so all of those are also really decent. Ally Switch 2 could be really cool in doubles, especially with Sand Rush. This could honestly be a pretty decently annoying Pokemon, to say the least. Moving on to its TMs though, you get stuff like Will-O-Wisp, Helping Hand, Trick. You get Fire Fang and Ice Fang at the very least. Oh, and Thunder Fang too, I skimmed over that. Bulldoze, Phantom Force Player of Psychic Fangs, Tantrum, Body Press. Body Press is really your only physical defense option, or your physical fighting option. That's not great, but at the same time though, to be fair, this has naturally good physical defense, so you could probably still do a good dent on stuff like Tyranitar. So I'm not as worried, and you could in theory Terrestrial fighting this, and it'd be pretty decent. But I don't know, I think for singles, you could actually make a case for this maybe having OU niche, just considering how few dark types we have, and the fact that you could probably pair this thing with some sort of Sand Rush ground if we have one, and that could be decent. I don't think we have Drill in the game. I'm pretty certain we don't have Drill in the game, but I think this could maybe be decent actually. I could see this having a case in doubles as being a legitimately viable Pokemon. At the very least, it's going to be viable pre-home in my opinion as like the Sand Sweeper. I think this will be decent. Houndstone, I think will actually have a place in my opinion. You could also maybe even make this work on Trick Room with like a room service, but I don't really think that's the most optimal way to use this Pokemon. Regardless though, I think it'll be usable. Moving on to Espathra though, I've heard a lot of people say this is broken, but I haven't really taken the time to look into it yet myself. But it seems like it gets Opportunist, which it seems like it's a new ability here if nothing else. So let's pull up the new ability. So for Opportunist, if the opponent's stat is boosted, the opponent seizes the opportunity to boost the same stats. So it's basically like what Dancer was, but for every stat change. That's really good. I think this could totally be a really good way to basically just be an auto psychic option, which could be really useful in my opinion. Moving on to the move pool, at the very least this gets Lumina Crash, which is a new signature move. Let's pull it up. Lumina Crash. The user attacks by unleashing a peculiar light that affects the mind. This also harshly lowers the user's special defense stat. And base power seems to be 80 special psychic. Then it drops the special defense by 2. 100% accurate. Honestly, I don't know how I feel about that. If this thing had Contrary, it'd be one thing. But I don't know if this will be really used all that much. Maybe if this was like a spread move, but it doesn't look like it actually mentions its spread. And it says a single target actually. So I don't know, this just feels like a worse... Oh, the targets. Never mind, I misread that. I thought it was the users. Never mind. That's just Special Thunder's Kick, which could be really useful in tandem with Speed Boost, actually. So on the other hand, that's a really good option. As far as other options go, for your options, offensively speaking, you do get the dual screens, which is Speed Boost, could be really good with the Light Clay set. You get stuff like Endure, which could be useful with like a Pitaya Berry at the very least with Speed Boost, could be pretty viable if nothing else. It's a pure Psychic type, so pure Psychic offensively will be great, and you get options like Shadow Ball for other Psychics, you get Calm Mind for setup, you get Energy Ball for coverage. Trick Room will not be viable on a Speed Boost option. Sword Power could be really deadly. Actually, in a Pokemon like Calm Mind plus Auto Speed Boost, you could actually make this into a very terrifying option. Dazzling Gleam will be great for coverage for Darks, especially with the Calm Mind set. You get, obviously, Terra Blast. Looking at this thing, its Egg moves, it gives Hypnosis, Roost, and Ally Switch. That's fucking great. As far as other level up moves go, nothing really noteworthy here that we didn't already go over. Honestly, this could be a pretty decent OU mon. I could totally see a Speed Boost Psychic type with 101 special attack and 105 speed being OU. I could even get this thing being banned in singles, and it's purely just because I know the fact that Spogon is pretty ban heavy with these sort of things. They've banned Blaziken for several generations. I could see this mon getting the boot as well. I wouldn't be surprised if this thing stuck around, but I wouldn't be surprised either if it got banned. I think it would be really up in the air for either one. As far as doubles go, I think this will be a really viable option personally. I think we could totally see this thing getting put on terrain teams and maybe just trying to avoid priority that way, and then sweeping teams with Sword Power with Psychic Terrain plus Calm Mind and Speed Boost. Frisk could also be decent for scouting through items, especially because VGC has a lot more unique items in some cases with Item Claws, and you could probably throw this on with a Scarf set with stuff like Scarf, or actually probably not Scarf, but like a Light Clay Frisk set with Trick, dual screens, and then some sort of option like U-Turn or maybe the signature move, and going for an option that way. This will be a decent Pokemon, I think. This is something you'll definitely have to watch out for in my personal opinion. Next up, we have Farigiraf. So we saw the ability for Farigiraf, basically Cudchew and Armortail. These are reskins of currently existing abilities. With, at the very least, Cudchew, this seems to be when a Pokemon of this ability eats a berry, it will eat one more at the end of the turn. So I think this, if I remember correctly, this is basically Cheek Pouch. And then for Armortail, this makes it immune to priority boost. This is basically Queenly Majesty. Honestly, I'm a little disappointed. I think this will be not terrible on Trick Room, if nothing else, with Cudchew with Armortail at the very least. 120 HP and 70 isn't exactly too bulky though. 110 special attack isn't exactly that offensive though. 60 speed is really the selling point here, especially with the fact that it is a psychic type that is immune to ghost moves. But at the same time though, I'm not really sure how I'm feeling on this. It's basically just got draft rate coverage, which isn't terrible. This gets some good utility with stuff like Guard Swap and Power Swap, which is okay. Nasty Plot and Baton Pass could be pretty decent with agility as well. This thing doesn't really have the best egg moves. It doesn't really get anything that's going to be too valuable. I guess the best one would be Ally Switch. So I don't think that's too useful. Honestly, this will probably be a pretty big letdown. Even with the coverage of stuff like Psychic, Nightshade, Nightshade's utility, but still Shadow Ball, Helping Hand for utility as well. You get some good options in your move pool, but truthfully, I think this will just be outclassed by their Psychics. In singles, I could maybe see this thing being NU just solely because of Armortail. I don't think Cudchew will really be that useful in my personal opinion. As far as doubles goes, I think this will just be outclassed. And this would be truthfully very lucky to get an NU tiering at all, let alone a PU tiering. I think this will probably be in the ZU tier, though truthfully it's just not great, but Armortail will be the saving grace here in my opinion, probably in the NU to ZU range, maybe NU. Draft Rig on the other hand, probably will still be shit. I can't really see this thing being viable with Violet, however it's going to be too good to be banned in LC. Moving on to the Wiglet and Wug trio, these are just worse Dugtrio. I'm not even going to spend the time of day on them. They have the same exact stats as base Diglett and Dugtrio. Actually no, at the very least, it looks like it lost stats for Wiglet at the very least. Wugtrio at the very least, that was quite literally the exact same stats. Pretty terrible. Dondozo, at the very least, this one can combo with another Pokemon we'll go into later on in the list. A Pokemon that has Commander, it's a little sushi fish. And this thing has decent stats. Now, I'm not sure how Commander specifically works. I know for a fact that Commander, which I'm going over Commander now despite not being the ability on this, solely because of the fact that, yeah, so at the very least, it looks like Dondozo would issue the commands. I'm not really sure the in-depth of how this works. It doesn't look like we have a too clear of an understanding just yet on the very specific cases, on like if it seeks out super effective options, if it seeks out weaker allies or weaker opponents or whatever it does. But at the very least, this Pokemon has some decent options with Unaware and Oblivious, both being decent as well as Waterfall being okay. For Dondozo at the very least, this has some good stuff in its move pool going for it. So it could be some good utility. We've seen that work in some occasions. This will be a decent Trick Room option with nothing else. You get stuff like Wave Crash for physical options, which will be decent off a 100 attack, especially on Trick Room. This doesn't really seem to get any egg moves, which is whatever. Oh no, never mind. We see Dondozo now. Thrash Fisher, yeah, nothing really good for egg moves anyway. I stand by that. As far as the TMs go, you get stuff like Earthquake, Waterfall, Rock Slide. Yeah, this will be a decent Trick Room option if nothing else for doubles. You get stuff like Bulldoze, but that's not gonna really matter for doubles. At least for Trick Room. Liquidation and Body Press are both decent options as well. Chilling Water. Chilling Water is a new move. We haven't gone over that one, have we? So for Chilling Water, so basically, let's see. So Chilling Water, the user attacks the target with water. It's so cold it saps the target's power. It also lowers the attack. So basically, it looks like this thing ends up being -1 attack with the 50 base power. Honestly, it's not going to be great in my opinion. I think this will truthfully benefit more from liquidation, but I think this will be an okay option. I don't see it really being too valuable in singles, at the very least, because it does not look like it gets a reliable recovery option. It gets rest, which will be not terrible, but the egg moves don't give it anything, which have typically been how a lot of these Pokemon have been getting stuff. And yeah, it doesn't look like it gets something, unless if Order Up is a recovery move. Yeah, Order Up. So at the very least, it boosts stats based on the Tatsugiri. So if it's yellow, it boosts speed. If it's orange, it boosts attack. And if it's red, it boosts defense. That's not terrible, actually. I could see that being potentially useful. It also is a Dragon Base 80 physical move. Yeah, this could be pretty decent in my opinion for a move on this. Nothing else, at the very least, Dondozo would get a way to hit Dragon types, which is pretty decent on physical options. I could see this thing maybe being in like the NU tier. I think in doubles, well, no, it'll probably be like NUPU truthfully, maybe even CU, but it's bulky enough on the physical side. You could probably throw an Assault Vest on this and make it work. As far as the double side, I think this will actually be kind of useful, but it's going to really depend. It's going to really entirely depend on how good Commander is, but Commander couldn't dare make this work. If nothing else, this will be a very fun YouTuber day one strat. So content creators, we got a fun thumbnail mon for doubles. That's really about it. Veluza, Water Psychic type. This will honestly be kind of interesting. Veluza has 70 speed, 102 attack. Honestly, this will be a worse version of fucking Bruxish in my opinion, but we can go over the ability Sharpness, which basically for any sort of slicing moves or stuff like Psycho Cut, for example, this will end up giving a boost. As far as the specific boost, it seems like we're unaware on that, but it basically just powers up slicing moves. And this Pokemon seems to get some options for slicing moves. I'm pulling up the specifics now, but I swear this thing got some options. Oh yeah, I get stuff like Psycho Cut at the very least, and Aqua Cutter, which Aqua Cutter is a new move. It's basically just a water type, one of these cutting moves, which should, if nothing else, be pretty decent on this. I think this will be a decent stab to take advantage of this. It seems like it has high credit goals. Yeah, it's literally just water Psycho Cut. So I think this will be pretty decent if nothing else, as maybe a good Scarf option, but again, it's probably gonna end up in like the PU-ZU tier. I don't see this being useful at all in doubles, but if I was to use it, it would again be like a Scarf set with Sharpness, and I go with Psycho Cut, Ice Fang, I would go with Aqua Cutter, and then I'd probably throw on some fourth option, which would probably be probably Drogon. It doesn't look like this thing gets Flip Turn, which is really unfortunate actually, because this could have totally taken advantage of it. This isn't bulky enough to really care about having Recover, but it's not a bad move in general. You can always throw on Aqua Cutter as well. Let me look at the Layaway. Let's see, because that could be a potentially useful move. Let's see, for Layaway, sharply boost the attack. Okay, this looks like it's just Clinger Soul, but it's +2 in the offenses and speed, and instead of dropping the, well yeah, so it drops the HP stat to +2 in those. Honestly, that could be useful. That might actually change my impression of this Pokemon, because you could overfollow Misc and +2, +2, +2, and that could be really decent actually. And you throw on the Ice Fang plus Psycho Cut and Aqua Cutter. Maybe this actually is a good doubles Pokemon after all. This could actually be pretty useful in my opinion. Water Psychic is a great offensive typing, and you could pair this with something like Indeedee specifically actually. And Indeedee would be really good, because you could also get the Psychic Terrain up and boost this thing's Psychic attacks even further. This will be a monster, I think, actually. I take it back. That's going to be such a good option. Next up, we can go to Palafin. So I'll be honest, I don't know how Palafin Hero specifically works, but this could potentially be an Uber's Pokemon. I do have to look into the egg moves and the level up moves this and nothing else though. So it looks like this thing gets Flip Turn, which is great. What's Jet Punch do? Because Jet Punch from nothing else could be decent. As summons a Torrent, this move always goes first, which will be pretty decent. It's 60 base power and 100% accuracy. It can't be called by metronome. Yeah, okay, so this will be not bad. This getting Jet Punch will be pretty decent for always going first, assuming it is truthfully like +5 priority like it's saying. At the very least though, we do have other options for physical like Aqua Jet though, Flip Turn as I already mentioned, Acrobatics which would be not terrible. That's going to be good coverage for grass types. Wave Crash will be a great way to break with this Pokemon, because it's basically water type double edge this game. I did forget to mention that, but it's water type double edge. Egg moves, not really anything useful. I guess Bounce will be the most useful if anything. As far as the TMs go, you get stuff like Ice Punch though, which would be great for coverage. You get stuff, I mean, Icy Wind won't be terrible off of 106 special attack, but I think truthfully you'd just benefit more from using the physical stat. You get Helping Hand, which is decent utility, but again, I think you'd just be better fire off hits. Bulk Up and Close Combat will be great, Drain Punch will be great, Zen Headbutt will be great. Yeah, honestly, I can see this thing being Ubers. At the same time though, I don't know if it's guaranteed, truthfully. I think 100 speed will hold it back, but this is a rather slow meta. So I think we could definitely see this thing totally going to Ubers, 160 physical attack. I'm pretty sure this rivals like Slacking and Regigigas with an actually decent ability. 0 to Hero as far as the specifics go. I think it's, yeah, when this Pokemon gets sent out, it transforms to Hero form. So yeah, it's literally like no drawbacks, it seems. Honestly, I think this will be probably Ubers in my opinion. As far as the base Palafin though, I think this will literally be untiered. This mon's pretty garbage, and it just has 0 to Hero as an ability. So I don't really see this thing actually being useful. Also, it seems like to access the ability, you need to be level 38 plus and use co-op play with someone watching a battle. So that's not great. No one's gonna really care about going through the evolution method unless you're a YouTuber. So again, YouTubers, congratulations, you got another 100k thousand view video. You're welcome. As far as the next Pokemon, we have Arboliva. This seems like it could be pretty okay on Trick Room if nothing else. This thing has 39 speed, which will be pretty decent, especially with 125 special attack. The grass normal is pretty terrible, I can't lie. Let's get some good options. Terrain pulse could be pretty decent, actually. You could maybe pair this with something like grassy terrain and get a really good nuke out of your stab. You could also pair this with some other terrain, though. For example, electric terrain could be pretty good for covering flying types. You get, well, actually, psychic terrain would probably be decent for covering fighting. Misty terrain as well would be good for that, though, but I think psychic would be better on a Trick Room team to avoid some sort of priority option. You get stuff like Energy Ball, which will be decent for stab, same as Petal Blizzard. For egg moves, you get stuff like Synthesis, Memento, and Weather Ball and Shine Sap. Those are all really good egg moves on this Pokemon, actually. As far as TMs go, you get stuff such as Giga Drain, which will be decent. Solar Beam will be great for sun teams. You get stuff like Earth Power, which will be really good. Leaf Storm will be really good. Dazzling Gleam will be really good. Pollen Puff will be decent for support. Honestly, and Helping Hand too for support. I could truthfully see this thing actually being like the Trick Room option for a Sun team. Because if you think of it this way, right? I know it would be running multiple grasses, but you run this thing with Scovillain, which we'll actually get into in a second, and you run this thing with Arboliva. And you throw on a Torkoal as your Trick Room setter, or as your Sun setter, and you throw it on a Trick Room team. Basically, if the opponent is going for a faster route, you run the Trick Room set with Arboliva, and if it's going for a slower team, you go with Scovillain, as long as they're not going for outright Trick Room. If they're just going for something slower, you could potentially go with Scovillain and maybe ransack that way. You could even throw both on a team and have both routes. I think it could be pretty decent in my opinion. As far as singles goes, I think this will be absolute garbage. But let's really quick check in Seed Sower. It seems like grassy terrain when hit. So honestly, yeah, it could even pop its own terrain for Terrain Pulse, which is pretty useful. Yeah, I could see this actually being maybe a decent Trick Room option for Sun teams and doubles. I don't think it's going to be like a meta option for Sun teams in doubles, but it could have some actual niche with Torkoal in my opinion. Especially as a good way to clear through stuff like Gastrodon for it, because Torkoal will otherwise ransack a lot of teams besides Gastrodon. It'll be decent in Trick Room at the very least. I think it will be pretty useless in singles though, like absolutely useless in singles, but we'll have to see. Next up we have Scovillain though. Scovillain's pretty decent if nothing else. This thing has Chlorophyll and it's a Fire Grass type. We finally got it. I want you guys to know this was on my wish list with Fire Fairy this generation, and it was literally one of like the 2 types I wanted. So I'm glad we finally got a Grass Fire. It's one of my favorite type combinations we didn't have. We will take this. 108 in both offenses, 75 in speed. Honestly, this already is amazing. Moody is a pretty decent but super bad in singles ability. Spicy Extract, what does this ability do? Well, actually, what does this move do, I should say? So Spicy Extract. This seems like it emits a thing that's going to sharply boost the target's attack stat and harshly lower the target's defense stat. And it looks like it is specifically for the target. Does it look like? Yeah, it looks like it's single target. And it's definitely not a self-target. This could be pretty decent if nothing else, because you could potentially use this on an ally that might not care about their Fizz Def and go for an attack boost. It looks like it's +2 at the very least. That could be okay, I guess. I don't think it's going to be super mainstream, though. As far as options this thing does get for its moveset, though, you get stuff like Flamethrower, Fire Fang, Bullet Seed. These could all be pretty decent. Zen Headbutt, Seed Bomb, Solar Beam, Overheat, all would be pretty decent options in my opinion. Utility, you get stuff like Rage Powder, not going to really matter. Leash Seed for egg moves, again, not going to really matter. For the TM side of things, though, you get stuff for Uni TMs at the very least. Stuff like Giga Drain will be pretty useful. Will-O-Wisp, Helping Hand. You get stuff like Leaf Storm, Grass Knot, Stompic Tantrum, Trailblaze. All of these could honestly be pretty decent. This will be definitively a really good mon in doubles. This is a trick as a Sun Sweeper will be such a terrifying option. I will say though, not having Weather Ball, kind of a letdown, I can't lie. This would have been a really good Weather Ball option, but I can totally get why, to be fair. It doesn't super need it. It does have Flamethrower still as a stab, so it's not going to be a huge deal breaker, but you know, Weather Ball could have been kind of cool. As far as where I think this will be in Smogon, I could see this thing actually being a good UU option with Sun. I could totally see this thing making Sun actually viable in OU even, and I could even see it just being an outright OU mon. Firegrass's offensive typing is great, especially when a lot of our wall core have lost some really valuable options, and there's not really great walls that would actually wall this thing in my opinion. So I could see this thing being OU, but it would be pretty locked on a Sun team, I will say. Moving on to Bellibolt. This thing gets Electromorphosis, Static, and Damp. It's a pretty bulky option. 103 special attack is pretty decent. I remember Calci on Ampharos as far as damage rolls, and it seems pretty close, I will say, for anyone who is saying that we couldn't really make a prediction based on these things. If we pull up Ampharos actually just as a comparison, which I believe we actually, this stock literally does it for us if I remember correctly. But let's pull it up. Let's pull it up. So I'm scrolling through. We don't actually get the comparison for this. God damn it. Well, if nothing else, let me pull up Ampharos' stats on Showdown because we can quite literally pull it up. So Ampharos, if nothing else, this thing has 90 HP. Bellibolt is 19 bulkier. 75 attack. Bellibolt is a little weaker. It doesn't really matter. 91 Fizz Def on Bellibolt and 85 Fizz Def on Ampharos. Pretty similar. 115 special attack on Ampharos. 103 special attack on Bellibolt. Pretty similar. 90 Spadef and 83 Spadef on Bellibolt. Pretty similar. And 55 speed on Ampharos, 45 on Bellibolt. So just better. Honestly, for anyone who told me that we couldn't make a prediction off of just design alone, you're welcome. We pretty much predicted it to a T. It was pretty damn close to Ampharos. A little bit of stat changes, that's to be expected. It's not going to be an Ampharos clone. It also got static, just like Ampharos did. Hidden abilities, damp, it's whatever. Electromorphosis was the good ability here, though. I could totally see this thing being an absolute doubles threat, especially with the 45 speed. This is huge for Trick Room, in my opinion. This will definitively be a good option on Trick Room. As far as coverage goes, you get stuff like Weather Ball. This will be great on Rain or Sun on Trick Room as well. As far as other options you get stuff like Sucker Punch. It'll be whatever. Not really anything great here. I will say though, Slack Off is going to be pretty cool, and Discharge, we already knew it got Discharge if nothing else. As far as the egg moves go, Muddy Water is pretty cool actually. That's a really cool option. Parabolic Charge and Soak are also pretty cool, but I don't think they'll be super useful. I definitely think though, if nothing else, that Muddy Water is going to be huge on this thing for Trick Room. I can totally see this thing actually being on Rain with Muddy Water, Discharge, and fillers. You'll get stuff, for example, like well, Electro Ball is gonna be pretty shit, but stuff like Volt Switch for pivoting. You can get stuff like Thunderbolt can be pretty good for a single target. Truthfully, I think this will just run like 3 attacks and protect, and it will do pretty damn well with it. You could potentially Terra Blast into some sort of coverage option, but I don't know why you would. I think you just go with Muddy Water on a Rain team and just go for stuff like Thunder or Discharge and run ham. Like you will absolutely break teams with this mod, in my opinion, and especially with the fact that it has to take a hit to do so. Electromorphosis could be pretty decent in my opinion. In my opinion, this will be a pretty good doubles mon. I think it'll be like NU and Smogon, maybe RU. The ability really carries it, but I think it's probably going to be NU, truthfully. Having recovery is pretty cool, though, I will say. And its bulk is pretty respectable, too, with only 1 weakness. It's just going to be better Ampharos, subjectively speaking. I could see it also keeping static in doubles. That will be a tier that will actually be viable. Next up is Reverum. Just objectively worse than what the in-game bosses give it, because the fire one gives it speed boost, which is so much better. This is really a letdown, whatever you say about it. I will say the 90 speed's not terrible, especially with the fact this does have filter, which is kind of cool, but not really, because the typing is 4 times weak to ground, which is one of the most common offensive options in the game. Poison Jab's decent, Toxic Spikes are decent. You get stuff like, for example, Heavy Slam is decent. You get stuff like Steel Beam, whatever. I don't know. TMs are okay. As far as the egg moves go, you get Toxic, which will be kind of cool. Parting Shot will be kind of cool. Self-Destruct will be kind of cool. Haze also will be kind of cool. For the moves itself, you get stuff like Shift Gear, which will be pretty cool. Shift Gear will actually kind of make this thing a little bit viable. Spin Out's a pretty new move. Let's see. So Spin Out, this thing inflicts damage on the target. This also harshly lowers the speed stat. Oh no, we don't care about this move. The fact that it harshly lowers speed stat. It hits 10 times. What the fuck? Oh, it's a normal move. Okay, I don't really care if it's a normal move. Oh, never mind. Wrong thing. It's a steel move. Yep, base 100, and it drops the speed 2 stages. That sounds about right. Okay, yeah. I don't really care about this. If it's dropping speed, that's not really a good thing. Honestly, this will probably be a cool mon. I don't think it'll be really useful in doubles, but maybe in singles it could be useful. I will say Shift Gear is kind of going to be the thing that makes it any bit useful in doubles, though, especially with the Follow Me option, but I just think there's better Pokemon, personally. The coverage physically isn't really great. It's basically limited to mono stabs with, like, Zen Headbutt, and and Bulldoze, too, and that's about it. It gets coverage for Seals, at least, though, which is kind of great, because the stab combination would otherwise get hard-walled by it. I don't know. I think this will maybe be like an NU singles option if it's lucky, and it'll be in doubles like a very niche option. Next up, we do have the Worm, Orthoworm. Earth Eater, it's basically just water absorbed for ground attacks. I don't know. This one might be decent. Bulldoze is pretty cool. 85 attack is whatever. Biz def, it's pretty good. It's pure steel type, which having that immunity to ground will be really cool. Iron defense could be really useful on this with stuff like Earthquake. Shed Tail will be pretty cool on this passing subs, especially with the 70 HP. It's gonna be not terrible. This gets Curse and Coil through egg moves, which would be really useful. You get stuff like Rock Slide and Helping Hand and Rock Tomb. You get stuff like Iron Head's pretty decent for a stab. You get stuff like Bulldoze, Body Press. Honestly, this could be a pretty decent option. I could see this thing, if it got Recovery, honestly, this could have been really good in like OU, truthfully. But because it doesn't get Recover, I can see this thing maybe being UU-RU. The immunity is pretty cool, and I know a lot of stuff lost some good options. This does get spikes. It gets a lot going for it. I can see this thing maybe if it's lucky being an RU option. I know a lot of steals don't get great recovery anyway, so I don't think it's going to be a huge deal. In doubles, I don't see this thing getting actual use. The one saving grace for this thing, truthfully, will be Shed Tail, but I think we have a better user of it later on, and I will go into that later. Next up, though, we do have the mice. Tandem Mice and Mouseshold. Honestly, I don't think this will be great. Technician will be kind of cool. I will say in doubles, maybe this could be having use considering Friend Guard. Friend Guard will make anything viable in doubles, though, if we're going to be completely honest. Population Bomb. What does this new move do? Oh, this is the 10 times hit thing. Honestly, it's pure normal. It's 20 base power per hit, 90 accuracy. The 10 times is pretty cool. It's basically Parental Bond if you're looking at that way, which this is just a letdown considering people were saying it actually got Parental Bond. Unfortunate. Baton Pass and After You are pretty cool options if nothing else. As far as Mouseshold's utility options, it gets Helping Hand, which would be pretty cool with Friend Guard. I can see this thing being actually viable with support in doubles. This will be outright unviable in singles though. It's not even going to be like PU. Moving on to the ice types, Titan. Titan will be a great option in my opinion for Hail teams. This gets stuff for through TM, stuff like Ice Punch, Earthquake. You get stuff like Stomping Tantrum, Liquidation, Body Press, which Body Press will be okay, it'll be whatever. But even still, I think that Stomping Tantrum will be the great one because it's a great still coverage option right there. As far as egg moves go, you get stuff like Yawn, Icicle Crash, Super Power, Belly Drum, all of which will be amazing. As far as level up goes, you don't really get anything we didn't already mention. I will say that Ice Spinner is probably the most noteworthy here, which Ice Spinner, it's basically an 80 base power option that clears terrain, which will be pretty strong in my opinion. Honestly, I could see this thing being like a legitimate OU terror, especially if we get any good Failmon, which I guess is probably a Bomb of Snow since it's the only Snow Warning Mon that seems to be in the game as far as what I've heard. Honestly, this will be pretty decent though. Easy OU Menace, easy VGC Menace. This will be really good. I think at worst this thing gets in the UU tier, but this has too many good options offensively speaking with Slush Rush to be in the NU tier. Unless if this thing of course gets Hail banned in some tiers that it's ends up being broken in. Instead of, Titan being banned, which if that's the case, then this thing will literally drop to NUPU. But otherwise though, I mean, Sheer Force is still really good on the nice type. You get stuff like Icicle Crash to take advantage of it. This will be a strong mon to keep an eye out for in my opinion. Next up we have the Pseudo-Legend. Honestly, this one's a little bit of a letdown stat-wise, but it's basically going to be another Haxorus clone in my opinion. Looking at its level up moveset, you do get stuff like Breaking Swipe, Glaive Rush. Right, what's Glaive Rush? So this seems like it's going to be a single target option with 120 base power, 100 accuracy. For Glaive Rush, it seems like it will attack the opposing target and it cannot miss and will inflict double damage if you attack 2 turns in a row at the very least. It looks like it's a reckless charge though, so it looks like you're probably going to take a recoil, but it doesn't actually list that. Okay, so attacks from opposing Pokemon during an... Oh, attacks from the opposing Pokemon cannot miss and will do double damage. Oh no, that's terrible. That's so bad. Never mind. This will be terrible for a signature move. For egg moves at the very least, you get stuff like Dragon Rush, Icicle Spear, Freeze Dry, whatever. For level up, you get stuff like Dragon Claw, you get stuff like Icicle Crash, Crunch. Not bad. Breaking Swipe will be cool for VGC and Tailwind if something else. As far as TMs go, you get stuff like Sword Dance will be useful, Earthquake, Iron Head. You get stuff like Outrage, you get stuff like Helping Hand, Bulldoze, Tantrum, Body Press. This will be okay. I think truthfully this will be like a UU Argumon. I kind of wish this thing got Recovery and with the Kiram out being really bulky. Actually, let me double check the ability. What's Thermal Exchange do? This could maybe be the saving grace. Boost the attack stat when hit by a fire movement cannot be burned. Okay, never mind. This will probably be a UU Mon, maybe OU to be honest, but I think probably UU. If there's only the second, actually, does it get Dragon Dance? I forgot to actually check for that, I'll be honest. Let's see, so Dragon Dance, it does not get it through. Oh, no, it does. Honestly, yeah, this will probably be like a UU OU Bond. Dragon Dance will be the saving grace in this thing, in my opinion. It's just gonna be better Haxorus. If only this thing got priority like that did. Next up, Tatsugiri. We already mentioned this. I think this will probably be pretty decent if nothing else. I will say that if this thing gives a stab option to Dondozo, this will be a really good option in doubles with it, actually, if it gives the dragon stab. This will be, if nothing else, a pretty decent option with Storm Drain as well, with the 120 special attack. Truthfully, I think this will just be better than Dondozo, though, but it depends on how Commander functions. I'm not even going to go into this one in all honesty, because despite having good coverage options, stuff like Icy Wind, Hydro Pump, Draco Meteor, etc., it's basically going to be dependent on how you use it, based on how that move works. I will say, though, either way, I think this level plays in the meta. It's just going to depend on how good Dondozo is, though. This will be good on Tailwind, if nothing else. Stuff like Muddy Water, Draco, Nasty Plot, Dragon Pulse. This will be the good one of the two, in my opinion. Even if it doesn't run Commander, it might just run Storm Drain and be an absolute menace. You still get options like Helping Hand, though, for support, which will be pretty cool. Good mon, in my opinion. Next up, we have Cyclizar, which will be the good Shed Tail user. 121 with speed with regen. This will be great for setting up subs or other setup options, and I think this will be leading to a really good offensive meta, in my opinion. As far as TMs go, you get stuff like Outrage. You get, well, actually, yeah, this thing has decent special attack and physical attack. You get stuff like U-Turn, though, and I think this will be a lot better on the physical side with like U-Turn, Crunch. You get stuff like Dragon Claw. Aerial Ace will be okay. You get Thunder Fang and Fire Fang at the very least. Iron Head for fairies, which will be decent. Ice Spinner, which we've already mentioned, is just clearing terrain, is decent. Knockoff and Iron Tail will be cool. Power Up will be cool. Those three are egg moves specifically, though. For level up, you also get stuff like Shift Gear, Breaking Swipe, which would be kind of cool. I think this will be a strong mon in UU or OU for sure. Definitively, it will have use. I think in doubles, this will also be kind of useful with Regen plus Shed Tail. I think this could be really good on Tailwind teams to allow slower Pokemon to come in after Tailwind is set, and then keep a substitute up and set up on the following turn with some sort of redirection support. Could be pretty decent in my opinion. Pawmi's final evolution. This gets Natural Cure, Iron Fist, and Volt Absorb. Through level up, this seems to get a option called Revival Blessing, which basically means you can revive a fanning Pokemon to half health. This will already be objectively a usable Pokemon. If nothing else, Pawmi will find a way to run a Scarf set in singles, which even still could be pretty useful with Iron Fist, and then running like Revival Blessing, Close Combat, and then throwing on stuff like Wild Charge, and probably this thing gets Volt Switch, right? Please tell me this mon gets Volt Switch. This gets Elemental Punches with Fire Punch, Ice Punch, and Thunder Punch. That's really good. Low Kick as well. Its move pool is pretty decent. Thunder Wave, Baton Pass, Encore, Helping Hand, Bulk Up. Holy shit, this gets like the whole 9 yards. Does this get Volt Switch though? That's the big one. It gets Wish too and Fake Out, Mach Punch. Holy shit. But it does not seem to get Volt Switch. Maybe I'm really blind. Let me double check real quick. I'm gonna Control F. Let's see. Nope. Tadbub gets Volt Switch. The Bellibolt gets Volt Switch. And Pawmi does get Volt Switch. Okay, so I am a little blind. Okay, so yeah, honestly, clear-cut OU mod in my opinion. I cannot see a world where this is an OU, and I think this will be useful in VGC as well. Because basically going into a game 5v4, where you can also control what Pokemon you're bringing and counter your opponents, revive a Pokemon that had a good matchup against therefore, and tailor it very carefully that way. I think this will be a very good option in both formats. I can't really see this being unviable in either. It will definitely be a good Scarf option, I think will be the best thing. But we'll have to see what happens. I think this will totally run Iron Fist with Elemental Punches as well, and stuff like Close Combat, and then a Revival Blessing. Next up is Kilowattrel. This is basically the new Zapdos, but it has really good speed. Competitive will be amazing on this Pokemon, especially for opposing Intimidate options. As far as the TMs go, you get stuff like U-Turn, you get Tailwind, you get stuff like Volt Switch. Hurricane will be amazing. This will be literally a broken option on Rain. Such a good option on Rain. Definitively. This will be also really good in singles, in my opinion, with stuff like Weather Ball, U-Turn, Hurricane, and Electric Move, and just run 4 attack sets. And I think this will honestly just be a really good option. Definitively, yeah, Volt Switch, Hurricane, Weather Ball, and then probably something like Roost or maybe like Thunder even. Definitively, this is an OU mon, and I think definitively this is a really good option on Rain. Bombardier, on the other hand, let's look. So this has, if nothing else, let's see, so 82 speed. Oh, this mon looks really garbage. Rocky Payload, though, what does this do? Because this, if anything, could be the thing that maybe gives it. Powers up rock moves. Okay, so maybe. Honestly, Dark Flag is a really good typing. If nothing else, let's look at its options. So Bombardier gets options like Rock Slide. Okay, that's pretty cool. You throw this on a Tailwind team, that could be pretty decent. Brave Bird is great. Foul Play is decent. Stealth Rocks are really cool. Drone is great. Honestly, this might not be terrible in singles. I think it's just going to be a budget mana buzz, if I'm going to be honest. Roost and Sucker Punch are pretty cool, though, actually. And Power Chip, this could be maybe decent on a setup set. It does get Knockoff. Honestly, maybe this is going to be an OU mon. This could be pretty decent with something else. The fact that a lot of mons lost some good options utility-wise, and this keeps stuff like Knockoff, which is very, very little spread at this point. Parting Shot is pretty good utility. I could see this thing having niche in doubles, or at least being used in doubles. I just think there's a better Parting Shot user, being Grim, which I'll go into in tomorrow's video. And I think that if nothing else, this might have a use in doubles and in singles. Just will be a bit of a lower tier option is all. Probably, in my opinion, like a UU option, but the typing is too good to not be usable, especially with stuff like Knockoff and Sucker Punch and its utility. As far as Squawkability X up, this thing keeps the same stats all around, but it seems like apparently the forms change the abilities, with Guts and Sheer Force being interchangeable. Either way, I think this will honestly be really garbage. This thing doesn't really seem to get a good signature move. Brave Bird, I guess, is pretty cool. Air Release is pretty cool. Through utility, through Egg Music, it's like Final Gambit and Parting Shot, which will be kind of useful. Same as Double Edge, which will be kind of cool. For TMs, it gets Helping Hand, I guess, U-Turn, Tailwind, Brave Bird, Kick Impact, Foul Play. Yeah, this will be legitimately like a PUZU option for sure. Not really going to be usable in doubles in my opinion. Hustle and Intimidate are both, well actually, Intimidate's kind of cool. That might be the saving grace, but I think we have a lot better options, stuff like Lander T, Arcanine, Salamence, and those are just the returning mons, and I think that we even might have better options in this, but I forget in all honesty. Regardless though, I don't think this will be that usable in my opinion. Flamigo, this is a fighting flying type. It has stuff like Scrappy, that's really good, 90 speed with 115 attack. You get stuff like low kick swords answer TMs, you get close combat, Brave Bird, oh my god, this seems decent. Liquidation as well for potential rock matchups. For Egg moves, Quick Guard could be kind of cool in doubles if anything else. In level up, it doesn't really matter. Wide Guard's probably the best thing it gets, maybe Throat Chop as well. Feint could be pretty useful depending on the situation. What does the ability do? Let's see, so Co-Star. Let's see, so Co-Star. When a Pokemon enters the battle, it copies stat changes. Honestly, I think a Scrappy is going to be the best ability on this. This will be a decent Scarfer, I think, in the UU, maybe OU tier, depending, at least UU before Galar Zapdos comes. Well, OU before Galar Zapdos comes. I think it'll be UU once it does enter the game, in my opinion. Because Galar Zapdos will objectively be better. It hits 10 attack harder, it's 10 speed faster. They get about the same options offensively. I will say the Scrappy is a pretty decent niche it has over Galar Zapdos, but Defiant, I think, in Orlando heavy meta will be so valuable when home comes out, in my opinion. But this is basically just different Galar Zapdos, where Galar Zapdos is Defiant and this is Scrappy. This will definitively be like a UU mon. It might even be banned from UU in all honesty, because it will be a really deadly Scarfer. But we'll have to see. Next up is Cloth. Cloth, honestly, pretty much what we predicted. Really physically leaning Shell Smash option. Regenerator, I did predict the hidden ability. Bravo, that was a really big ballpark. I predicted this actually on a script I wrote for someone else, so you could probably find that video somewhere. I think I might have even covered it in my Cloth video, but I genuinely forget. That was ages ago. But I figured, you know, the fact that it's a crab, it could maybe get Regenerator, and I fucking hit that one out of the park. I've been preaching this to anyone at the very least. I don't know if I've mentioned it on the channel, but I've definitely been preaching this in conversation. Sword Sense can be pretty useful, especially with the ability for Anger Shell, if nothing else, which seems to be +1 boost. I had mentioned in my video I thought it was +2. It's actually +1. A bunch of comments pointed that to me. Thank you guys for letting me know that. I appreciate it. For support options, to get stuff like Helping Hand, which can be kind of useful, especially with the Shell Armor on the Anger Shell ability. You get good coverage with stuff like Shadow Claw, Stone Edge, with stuff, well, options offensively, I should say, Rock Slide, Stone Edge, Shadow Claw, X Scissor, Brick Break. This isn't terrible. Sonic Tantrum will also be really good for steel matchups. Sadly, no Earthquake, but it's not a huge deal. For Egg Moves, Crab Hammer, and Knockoff are both really good. Endeavor's not even bad either. You get stuff like High Horsepower through level up too. Honestly, this will probably be like a NU mon. I think, truthfully, 75 speed is pretty good. It's better than what a lot of people were anticipating. I could see this thing running Focus Sash with Anger Shell and then going for Sword Stance on that turn and trying to reverse sweep teams at the very end of matches with like an NU tier. In doubles, I don't think it'll be that useful though, sadly. Regen could also be decent though with some sort of Spadef set, throwing on stuff like Stealth Rocks, and then just offensive options, but we'll have to see. Next up, we have the Knuckle stack. Let's see. Yeah, so here we go. So final evolution. Gargasalt. Let's see, so it gets Purifying Salt, Sturdy, and Clear Body. What does Purifying Salt do at the very least? Let's see, so Purifying Salt. So this, at the very least, protects the user from status options and halves damage from Ghost. That's not bad at the very least. As far as offensive options this thing gets, you get some good options like Elemental Punches, Earthquake, Rock Slide. You get stuff like Helping Hand, Rock Tomb, Stone Edge, Stealth Rocks, Tantrum, Body Press. Honestly, this will be decent. Curse is a pretty good egg move this thing gets if nothing else. For level up moves, this doesn't really seem to get anything too noteworthy outside of Hammer Arm and Wide Guard, which will be kind of useful. Otherwise, we've mentioned everything else in TMs. Honestly, this will probably be like an NU sort of Pokemon in my opinion, maybe PU. I will say in doubles, I don't think this will be that useful, but maybe. We'll have to see. I think it's just another Golem clone, sadly, but it's a really cool design one, if nothing else, just not showing it on screen. The Mora, basically the ability is Toxic Spikes. When a Pokemon makes contact with Toxic Spikes or Corrosion, either way, it's a really good ability that this thing gets. As far as utility goes, this thing gets Mortal, well, as far as Moose goes, it gets Mortal Spin. What does Mortal Spin do? This thing, basically, it's Rapid Spin at the very least. Yeah, it looks like Rapid Spin, but for Poison, honestly, it's pretty decent. If nothing else, it's base 30, base power, but it's also a stab option, so it's not too bad. As far as options it gets stuff like Rock Slide, won't really matter on a physical option. Sludge Bomb's pretty decent, Spikes are pretty decent. Sandstorm can help with Speed boosting, but I don't think it'll click it itself. Toxic Spikes, Power Gem. Toxic Spikes especially will be useful on Corrosion sets, just so you still can set them. Venom Shock will be decent, especially if you're poisoning everything. Flash Cannon and Dazzling Gleam will be useful. Acid Spray to drop Death. Limit also gets Toxic and Memento through Egg moves, both of which will be very useful. Level up, this thing doesn't really seem to get anything else besides Spiky Shield that's noteworthy. Honestly, this will probably be a UU, RU, well, actually no, it's probably like an RU, NU mod, truthfully. The typing being 4 times weak to ground, though, is going to be a big kicker, especially when it's a lot slower than Salazzle would be as far as Corrosion users go. This could be decent, though, if anything else. It's like a nice lead option. You click Stealth Rocks and you run a Focus Sash. Your opponent makes contact with you and they pop Toxic Debris. So I could see this thing being like a good, like, RUNU Toxic, just hazard lead to try and quickly stack an opponent. This will be not usable in VGC, though, in my opinion. Grafaiai. So let's see. So Grafaiai, this thing does not get Sketch, it seems. Very missed opportunity, in my opinion. But Doodle, this looks like I think it copies the ability, it changes the target's ability. So let's see. So yeah, so basically, the user captures the essence of the target in a sketch. This changes the abilities of the user and its ally Pokemon to that of the target. So that could be kind of decent. You can copy ability on both Pokemon if nothing else. That could be kind of cool. As far as utility options this thing gets, well, for status, it gets stuff like Sword Dance, Baton Pass, Encore, Taunt, Helping Hand. As far as options offensively goes, it gets stuff like Poison Jab, U-Turn, X-Scissor, Shadow Claw. For special, you get stuff like Nasty Bot, which could be kind of cool to help boost stuff like Sludge Bomb. Honestly, I don't think this would be great in singles. I think it doubles that ability, could be kind of useful, especially to copy Intimidate and maybe dual drop an opponent. This thing gets Toxic and Super Fang. Maybe that gives it like an NUPU niche in singles, if nothing else, but I don't think it'll be that great. Knockoff will be a good saving grace, though, if nothing else. I think NUPU is definitive for this, probably in the NU tier, in all honesty, with stuff like Pranks. Oh, I guess Prankster? Ooh, maybe PU. Maybe RU, NU, to be honest. And in doubles, this will definitely be a good option, personally, with Prankster. Moving on to Fido. This does get a Romavale, Welbeck Body. This basically ends up being, I want to say, let me double check. Oh, Welbeck Body. Here we go. So it's 6 no damage from Fire Boost and boosts its defense stat sharply instead. That's really good. As far as the TM moves this thing gets, this gets stuff like, for example, Substitute. Well, yeah, of course you get Substitute. You get stuff like Crunch, Helping Hand, Thunder Fang, Ice Fang, Fire Fang, Draining Kiss, which will not be useful at all with the weakest special defense, special attack. This thing has like no physical attack. Holy shit. This will be probably a PU mon for sure, in all honesty. I don't see this thing being great. Depending on if it gets Wish or not, though, maybe it'll be useful. You get Wish and it gets Yawn. Honestly, okay, so that might be the saving grace with Spawn, truthfully. This thing could potentially be a good NU mon, maybe as a good Wish option. It gets a lot of coverage and nothing else, and it gets some good setup with stuff like at least Work Up, as well as, let's see, so Dash Bond. It doesn't get Sword Stance. A little unfortunate. It doesn't get Bulk Up either. If only this could bulk up. If it had bulk up, this could actually be a pretty decent option in my opinion, but it doesn't. Honestly, this will be NUPU for sure. Next up is Mabastiff. Honestly, this could be pretty decent. Intimidate, Guard Dog, and Stakeout. Guard Dog I think was pretty decent. Boost the attack if the opponent, boost the Pokemon's attack stat if intimidated. Moves and items that would force the Pokemon to switch out also fail to work. Honestly, could be pretty decent. This basically just counteracts Intimidate, it seems, or maybe it even boosts more based on Intimidate. I'm not entirely sure how this will work. If nothing else, though, this is decent Tailwind speed. It's a pure Dark type, so that'll be decent. As far as level up goes, you get stuff like Hone Claws. Jawlick will be pretty cool, especially with the fact that this could also potentially trap Pokemon after they switch. Crunch and Payback will also be pretty good options. Reversal might be decent. Comeuppance. What does this do? Comeuppance. User retaliates with greater force than the opponent last inflicted on it damage-wise. This seems like, I think it's just counter. Oh, Metal Burst but Dark. Okay, that's easy enough. As far as Egg Boost goes, this thing gets Destiny Bond and Playoff. That'll be pretty good. Retaliate or Endeavor or whatever, but could be not terrible. As far as TMs goes, this thing gets stuff like Helping Hand be kind of cool. Thunder Fang, Ice Fang, Fire Fang, and Wild Charge could be kind of cool. Play Rough and Second Fangs could be kind of cool. Trailblaze could be kind of cool. Honestly, I see this thing being like an NU option for sure. Maybe RU. I think the Stake Out plus Intimidate as a combination is pretty lethal, if nothing else, and Guard Dog is also pretty decent. In doubles, I could see this thing actually being useful. A Dark Intimidate option will be pretty unique in the format, at least this generation, because I don't think Scrafty's in. So Map is Stiff could be pretty decent, especially on Tailwind. This could be a lethal option. Especially because Team Preview could bluff Stakeout, or you bluff Intimidate and go Stakeout, and that could be also pretty valuable. Next up, you have Bramble Ghost. Bramble Ghost is a grass ghost type with wind powers and ability. Let's look at what this was again. So wind power. If this Pokemon is hit, at the very least, boosts the Pokemon's attack stat if Tailwind takes effect if the Pokemon is hit by a wind move. This also takes no damage from wind moves, so this would be stuff like Icy Wind. Really just moves like that. Basically anything that ends in wind. If it's hit by it specifically. So that could be pretty decent, honestly. The attack stat is 115, and it pops Tailwind, so honestly, that's pretty decent. We have options like Nightshade, which will be pretty good utility-wise. Physically, this thing gets like Bullet Seed, Seed Bomb, Phantom Force. Let's see. Yeah, this doesn't really seem to get anything good physically. For Egg moves, it gets Leech Seed and Beat Up and Shadow Sneak and Strength Sap. That's all pretty decent. As far as the level up moves go, you get stuff like Pain Split, Rapid Spin. I don't know. Honestly, this could be kind of cool in doubles just to pop a Tailwind like a Focus Sash or nothing else. Infiltrator is not terrible in singles as well. I think in singles though, well, in doubles, I think it'll be like a niche Pokemon, to be honest. I think in singles though, this truthfully ends up being like an NU option. Probably, it's not great options offensively, but Tailwind plus the attack boost will objectively be decent. Next up, we have Gimmighoul. We have all three forms of Gimmighoul. Honestly, objectively speaking, both of the other forms will be shit for roaming and chest. They'll objectively be shit. But the other form, though, Good as Gold. This is a Ghost Steel type with 84 speed and 133 special attack. Honestly, this could be pretty decent. Good as Gold. What does this ability do? Good as Gold. Body Pure Gold gives full immunity to status moves. Ooh, this will be pretty good. It literally just blocks all status options. Objectively, that will be amazing. As far as Goldango's options, you get stuff like, for special coverage, you get stuff like Thunderbolt at the very least, which is pretty cool. You get stuff like Nightshade, which will be good utility. Shadow Ball is a good stab. Power Gem is a good special stab. Flash Cannon will be great. Well, Power Gem's not a stab, but it's a good special coverage option. You got stuff like Flash Cannon, which will be a good stab. Nasty Plot will be great to boost special attack. Electro Ball will be decent on Tailwind, if nothing else. Steel Beam and Dazzling Gleam are good coverage. For Egg moves, this doesn't seem to actually get Egg moves, which understandable. For level up, if nothing else, this thing seems to get stuff like Metal Sound, which will be whatever. Recover could be kind of cool. Make It Rain. What does Make It Rain do? It also gets Memento, by the way, but Make It Rain, what does this do? Let's see. So Make It Rain, this ends up dropping the user's special attack stat and money is earned after the battle. So it's basically just really strong steel type payday, but it also drops your special attack by 1. Honestly, I think Goldango, if nothing else, will be UU for sure. Probably useful in VGC on Tailwind teams. Let's see. So we're going to skip the Paradox Pokemon because I also actually went over all of these in another video if you want to see that. I will say though, if nothing else, I'm going to follow up on a couple because I did mention that potentially Roaring Moon could be banned based off of TMs. Well, there were a few. I'm going to go over 3. So Roaring Moon for one, this one got stuff like, for example, Ironhead, definitively going to go to OU and to Ubers now that it has coverage. Fluttermane, Fluttermane seems to have, did it get Calm Mind or Nasty Plot? Let me see. So Nasty Plot. It does not look like it got it. If nothing else, no, it does not look like it got it. It's very unfortunate. If nothing else. Oh wait, hold on. We're going down some more. I don't think it actually got it at the very least, which is a little unfortunate. If something else. Okay, so what about, let's see, so Fluttermane, I don't think it's got Calm Mind either, so Fluttermane I think might actually be allowable if nothing else, at least, oh no, it got Calm Mind, never mind, this one's probably gonna get banned. And then finally we do have, of course, Iron Valiant. Iron Valiant was already gonna get banned, objectively it was really broken. I will say as well, finally, for Iron Juggles, this mon got some pretty decent TMs and everything else. It gets stuff like Flamethrower, Hydro Pump, which will be great for coverage options. It also gets stuff like Dark Pulse, U-Turn, Zen Headbutt. It gets a bunch of stuff physically. It gets Flash Cannon too. This will objectively now be a decent enough Pokemon. Those are the ones I just wanted to follow up on. Truthfully, I don't think anything else exactly changes my thoughts on them. But again, they get some good options. Like for example, Delibird, yeah, it gets like Ice Spinner and it gets like Chilling Water, but these don't really change, in my opinion, how good the Pokemon is. I don't think any of these actually change besides the ones I just mentioned. So we're gonna skip these for the sake of time because this video is already over an hour long. we have the 4 new legendary Pokemon. So at the very least, let's start off with Tinglu. So this is honestly gonna be a pretty whatever Pokemon. Vessel of Ruin, let me check out the abilities for these. So Vessel of Ruin, oh yeah, this is under moves. Vessel of Ruin, this option lowers the special attack of all Pokemon except itself. Honestly, it's more like a Dark and Fairy Aura, which will be pretty cool. This keeps the drop continually, and it looks like all of these basically function like Dark and Fairy Aura. And for the Chain Pow, it's based off of defense. For the Wo Chang, this seems to be attack, and for Chi Yu, this is Spadef. So honestly, these will be pretty decent if nothing else. As far as the level up for the TMs go, Ting Yu gets stuff like Earthquake, it gets stuff like Taunt, this gets stuff like Snarl. Snarl won't be a huge deal though. Doesn't seem to get any physical dark move through TMs, which is fine. They're obviously not going to get any egg moves. As far as the level up moves go, let's see, Tinglu, here we go. So this gets stuff like Payback, Throat Chop, Ruination. What does Ruination do? Ruination, at the very least, this cuts the target's HP in half, so it's basically like, okay, this is basically like the top of your signature move. Honestly, I don't know. I think this will probably be like maybe like an RU Mon. Spikes is pretty cool. At the very least, Memento as well is really decent, but it doesn't seem to get recovery as far as I could tell, which is a little unfortunate on a Pokemon this bulky. So I don't know how good this will be. As far as the next one goes, we have Chain Pow. This one will be objectively amazing. I've heard this one gets knockoff at the very least. It gets Recover, gets Sacred Sword, Sucker Punch, Throat Chop, Sword Stance, Ice Shard. So even if it doesn't get knockoff objectively, this will be really fucking good. Honestly, this one might go to Ubers. No, it doesn't get U-turn. Maybe not. This will definitely be really good though, if nothing else. Sword Stance will be really good. I could see this one going to Ubers or something else. Chain Pow, objectively could be an Ubers mon. It could be a decent one. Gets Crunch as well for a good physical dark option, which is something that the other one did not seem to get at the very least, looking through the list. So yeah, honestly, I could see this one maybe being an Ubers mon, if nothing else. For Wo Chang, this one being Grass Dark, I don't know, this doesn't seem to really get anything too good. Offensively speaking, it's kind of average stat-wise. This one will probably not be great, and you probably, most likely, it's just a worse version of stuff like Zarude, and even the Paradox of Moongus I think is better. Because that thing at least gets a lot better support options. This doesn't really seem to get anything outside of... Yeah, it doesn't really seem to get anything actually useful support-wise, anything else. The coverage is whatever. It's basically just stabs, just like Zen Headbutt as well on the coverage side. It's not great. For level up, Chien Pao we're looking at Wo Chain. It gets like Leech Seed, Poison Powder, Knockoff is pretty decent, I will say, but that's really the extent of how good this is. It's probably gonna be NU, maybe RU, to be honest. I think Knockoff might help it a bit with that case. Chi Yu, this is a Fire Dark type with 100 speed and 135 special attack. This is totally be a good Scarf option. You get stuff like Nasty Plot, Lava Plume, Ruination. I think we've already mentioned that. I think they all get Ruination right. Memento will be decent. Overheat will be decent. As far as the TMs go, this thing gets like Will-O-Wisp. It's mostly, again, just stabs. Gets like Zen Headbutt, but that won't really matter. Truthfully though, this could probably just run dual stabs and be fine. This also seems to get, I thought it got Shadow Ball. It does not seem to get that. Honestly, I think that Chi Yu will probably be like an RU Mon. Wo Chang will probably be like an RU Mon. Xian Pao will be a definitive Uber, I think, maybe OU, and Ting Lu will probably be like an RU Mon. I think the rest will all be RU. I don't see this being super influential in doubles. They're not terrible, but I think they'll have use, just not be influential. Koraidon and Miraidon, these objectively are going to be broken. I'm actually going to do a whole separate video on these, and I want to discuss some niche for Ubers and what these bring to the table for the tier, so I'm going to skip over these for now. That video will be out on Wednesday if you're looking for it, so make sure to stay tuned for that. As far as Tinkaton goes, this one's kind of a letdown. I will say, though, that the signature move will be really useful on that 75 attack with Sword Stance. It's going to be the only way this could be a stall breaker, in my personal opinion. As far as the level up moveset goes, this thing... Well, as far as the TM moveset goes, I should say, Tinkaton gets stuff like Sword Stance, Thunder Wave, Dual Screens, you get stuff like Rock Slide, you get stuff like Stealth Rock, Bulldoze, Draining Kiss, Play Rough. Honestly, I think this will be, if nothing else. This also gets Ice Hammer, but I could not actually find a Pokemon that could breed this legally for Ice Hammer. If someone finds it, comment it down below. I would genuinely love to get Ice Hammer on this, but I could not find a legal parent to actually pass this on. As far as level up moves, you get stuff like Fake Out, Play Rough, Flash Cannon, Knockoff. Honestly, I think this will be a good like UU Mon. Truthfully, I think that the Sword Stance option plus the 160 base power Steel move carry this thing in its level up. But otherwise, though, you can't use the Steel move twice in a row, I will say, but it's not going to matter because you can just switch it out, set up a Sword Dance, switch it out after clicking Gigaton Hammer, or even just click something like Knock Off and Play Off, and it'll be decent enough. This will be kind of like a good UU Argumon. I think it might have OU niche just off of the typing alone, because that typing is obnoxious. It's got Clef level stats too, which is whatever. Mold Breaker is a decent Stall Breaker ability as well. Next up, we have the evolutions for Charcadet. These will both be kind of whatever. I will say that at the very least, Cerulean in 1.0.1 does get Shadow Sneak. That's something I'm sure a lot of people will have missed. You get some decent options though. It's a really move for Cerulean, by the way, if you're looking for it. As far as Armorage goes, you get stuff like Psyshock, Mystical Fire, Wide Card, Nightshade, Will-O-Wisp, Ally Switch, Flamethrower, Expanding Force. Expanding Force will be decent. Let's see. So as far as Armor Cannon goes, this one, it's just Psychic Close Combat, and it seems to be 120 special. Actually, it's Fire Close Combat. And the Bitter Blade, it's a Fire Leech Life, which is off a base 90 though, which is really good because it's just stronger Leech Life. Truthfully, I could see this one's actually being decent. I think that Armory specifically will probably end up in the RU tier, maybe NU, but it will probably be in the RU tier in my opinion. If this thing got better physical, on a better recovery, well, yeah, if this thing got like a good recovery move on Armrouge at least, that could be pretty decent, but it sadly does not seem to get one. As far as Ceruledge goes, I think this will be also like an RU-mon, maybe NU. Sword Dance plus all the good options it gets, stuff like Close Combat. It gets stuff like Shadow Sneak. It gets the signature move for fire. It gets stuff like, I think it gets Shadow Claw. I want to say this can get Shadow Claw. I swear this thing got a good physical option. Please tell me it's a physical ghost option. No. Oh, it gets Shadow Claw. Okay, thank God. Yeah, I think this will honestly be a decent, like, RU-NU-mon for sure. Maybe it's UU just off of Shadow Sneak alone. I think pre-home these will be a lot better too. You could run like a Focus Sash set with like Sword Dance and start going ham with these with weak armor. And Flash Fire is also not bad. This one, the Tentacool thing, I'm not even going to talk about it because the signature ability basically means the status moves are moving last, and that's kind of important for a grass ground type, and this is literally for any sort of status moves. So that's very unfortunate actually. Let me actually double check. Yeah, it seems like for literally any sort of status move, so it's very unfortunate. It goes unimpeded, sure. It doesn't really matter though because it's much priority, and the thing is to just get another option. If you could at least force the prediction there, it could have been really decent, but it doesn't. Earth Power and Gig Drain or whatever, I'm not gonna spend a lot of time on this. It's just worse Tentacruel. This will definitely be like a PUZ-mon. Kingambit. This will be really good. I will say Bisharp with a Violet could be decent in low tiers, but it did lose Knockoff, which is very unfortunate. If nothing else though, Kingambit could be decent. The signature move, basically, Kowtow Cleave. This move functions, let's see, Kowtow Cleave. This user slashes the target, it never misses. It is a 85 dark move. This seems like if nothing else, let the target lets it card down. User slashes the target. Yeah, okay, so it never misses basically. Okay, so it's 85 dark move that never misses. That's decent. The signature ability Supreme Overlord basically means that for every ally fainted, this gets a +1 attack stage. Really obnoxious in my opinion. This will definitely be an OU-mon, maybe even Ubers. I could totally see it, and I wouldn't even be surprised. This thing gets all the good Bisharp coverage that I got before. I don't even need to really dig into this. You guys know Bisharp, and even if it got new moves, I truthfully don't think it'll matter because Sword Dance, Sucker Punch, with stuff like the signature move will be really good. And then like Iron Head, and that's going to kind of define a lot of things. You could maybe go with some sort of coverage option over the signature dark move, and that could be pretty good too. Something like Brick Break, for example, for steel matchups. But again, I don't think it'll matter. This will objectively be an OU, if not Ubermon, especially on Trick Room teams. Clodsire, this thing gets Unaware, which will be really good actually. I'm so glad this thing got Unaware. So Clodsire also gets dual hazards with stuff like actually I think it gets all 3 hazards if I remember correctly. It gets Toxic Spikes through level up definitively. As far as egg moves goes, this thing doesn't actually seem to show any egg moves here. Actually Wooper, just to make sure that we get the egg moves. Here we go. Okay. So Wooper's egg moves are right here. It gets to like Recover, Curse, Ancient Power, Stockpile, Spit Up. Yeah, this will be decent. Clodsire at the very least for TMs as well. You get stuff like Toxic Spikes, you get regular Spikes, you get Stealth Rocks as well. Honestly, this will be a decent OU-mon for sure. It's bulky enough, it's just really passive. If only this thing got like Seismic Toss or Nightshade, this would be really good. Actually, no, I lie. I think this will be like NU, like a RU-UU range, but it's going to have OU niche for sure, and it will potentially spike into OU here and there and like ebbing and flowing, similar to how regular Quagsire does. This will be really decent if nothing else. Finally though, we have 2 more mons. The first one being Annihilate. This is better Prime Ape. If nothing else, this thing gets all the elemental punches. It gets stuff like it gets Shadow Ball's not going to be useful. Close Combat, Shadow Claw, U-Turn, Phantom Force, Damping Tantrum. Honestly, I think this will be a good UU Scarfer for sure. Maybe OU Defiant will be the ability of choice here for sure. Not a lot to say. I just prime it with the Ghost typing and a slightly slower speed stat, which is unfortunate, but it has a slightly higher attack stat.
And it's a lot bulkier too and a better dual stab. Finally, with the Paldean Tauros, I'll be honest, I don't know what these things actually get for TM differential. Tauros 1, it seems like if nothing else, they get pretty similar options. They get stuff like Close Combat, Zen Headbutt. They all seem to get kind of similar options as far as coverage goes. I can't actually tell a difference off of eyeballing. It gets stuff like Earthquake, it seems, for all of these. Smart Strike, they get some good options. Close Combat at the very least, they do seem to get Close Combat. They do all seem to have the same stats. I don't really see a good physical move on these, but to be fair, maybe that's intentional. Tauros, as far as the egg moves go, they all get Curse and Endeavor for their egg moves. As far as the level up moves for the Tauroses, they seem, so let's see, so Close Combat for sure, Zen Headbutt, Raging Bull seems to be, let's see, so Raging Bull, this seems to be an option that at the very least is 90 base power normal. This depends on the user and breaks barriers like Light Screen. Okay, that's not terrible. As far as level up moves for the other one goes, Flare Blitz on the fire one and Wave Crash on the water one, so this will be decent. I think that truthfully, them all having 100 speed and 110 attack with Kudju is pretty decent and Intimidate as well. I think this will probably be like NU mons for sure. But let me know what your guys' thoughts are. I know this is a very long video, I'm very sorry about that, but if you guys enjoy the content and you want to see more like it, leave a like in the video and subscribe for more. Shout out to channel members being Josh, aka Ultra Player, Zeke Zero, and Mia. Your guys' support is greatly appreciated, and if you want to see more like it, make sure to, well, if you want to become a channel member today, link down below to that, as well as Twitter and Discord for future content. Leave a like and subscribe for more, comment your thoughts, and I will see you guys later. Peace out, guys.